Yeah, back again. Welcome everybody. You're back on two with Dre and E. What's going on, Dre?
What's good? How you feeling?
Fantastic, baby. You know
All
me.
right, week number 3.
Yes, sir.
I feel you,
Yes,
I
sir.
feel you, I feel you.
Fantastic on them. What's been going on, man? How was your week?
Good. It was a fantastic week.
Okay.
I had to push through my week.
I'm feeling it.
Yeah.
I'm feeling it.
You know, had a couple setbacks.
Okay.
You know, I had to push through and persevere. You know how that go.
Setback ain't nothing but a setup for a get back.
Yeah. So you know,
Yeah, man.
made everything work.
Yeah, it's important, man. Perseverance is everything.
Mhm.
I mean, we experience too many setbacks, too many discouraging external outcomes and actions from other people that we have to manage
Yeah.
day to day, week to week, month to month.
Mhm.
But again, just piggybacking off our last conversation, you know, little by little, a little makes a lot. Right?
Yeah.
So it's just about setting that habit of trying to make sure that you're focused on the right things, not getting knocked off course, and just trying to make sure that you're applying that Pareto principle.
Ooh. Yeah.
So
That 80-20.
that 80-20. So
80-20.
we got a lot of feedback from that, man. People were feeling the 80-20.
Yeah, it was some good, interesting dialogue. Some people weren't, what it was. I think most people probably heard it in the form of relationships, but we were talking about it in the form of just business and life, and have more dialogue around that. It was pretty interesting.
Yeah, because I had only heard it in the form of the relationship form.
Yeah, yeah.
but people had brought it to you or introduced you to it in the form of just economics
And business, yeah, and like and entrepreneurship, like how you spend your time and your productivity.
Yeah.
So I learned the actual meaning of the Pareto principle through business. I knew about the 80-20 through relationships and
Okay.
Yeah. I learned what it meant based on business.
Okay.
Yeah, like I heard 80-20.
Yeah.
But what it actually meant, what it was designed for, I was like, I learned that through business.
Okay.
Oh, okay, got you. I heard that before.
Okay, yeah, I hadn't heard it through business.
Yeah.
I just, the line for me with business was just, you got to keep plugging away at it. You got to keep plugging away at it. And eventually, you'll hit gold.
True.
Right? Which, to me, there wasn't enough in that message.
Yep.
Is what I've learned is that it's not enough to just keep plugging away at it.
Nah.
You got to be very strategic
Absolutely.
about what you're actually digging for.
Yep.
And you have to know when it's time to give it up and when it's time to power through.
Yeah.
And so it's important to identify elements and milestones that you can use as a barometer to understand you're either making progress or you're chasing a pipe dream.
Yeah, very true. And it's funny to say that because I went to I had a coach who talked to me about that same kind of thing, how to pace yourself, like to figure out where you at in your goal.
Yeah.
And he compared it for me, sports analogy is always that'll click for me. Like when you start talking to me about whatever, I like, all right, whatever, cool. You start talking sports and correlating it to how business and kind of things work.
Yep.
My brain automatically like, oh, okay, I get it, and I connect those dots. And he talked about like soccer. He was like, soccer players don't sprint, but certain players sprint only a certain amount of distance.
Mm-hmm.
And he was kind of like using business that way of like, you want to jog.
Pick and choose your spots.
Yeah, like you're gonna sprint for a short amount of time. You're gonna active rest, which is you're running, but you're not running as hard.
Right. Angles and spacing.
Correct.
Yeah.
And I was like,
because they don't typically run plays.
Correct.
It's all about a feel for the man next to you.
Yeah.
You seeing the whole field, and then seeing where you need to be based on where the ball is
And that's
and
how
the defenders.
Yep. So he was using business as that for me as an analogy, and I was going, oh, and I don't even know soccer like that, but I understood the concept of, okay, you're not sprinting a whole football field and a half.
Yeah.
You're picking spots to sprint. Certain people have certain objectives, certain jobs that they have to do. So you're going to use different parts of it.
Right. It's the option route for the wide receiver based on the way that you're being covered.
Correct. So I was like, oh, okay. So, it's funny how certain worlds blend.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh, okay. And
well,
it clicks.
Well, that's why I think it's imperative for children to be involved in sports, because sports and what you go through in sports is very transferable to what you're gonna deal with in life. You're gonna deal with losses. You're gonna deal with wins. You're gonna deal with people who aren't as athletic or more athletic than you. They're gonna be gifted.
Team environment.
Right, that whole team environment. Learning how to deal with a leader who you don't necessarily agree with, and you still have to get through the season with that person, or you just quit because the objective is to get through the season successfully, of course.
Right.
But what you don't want to do is quit.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you've seen people that have started something that might have been very gifted, but they're just so used to quitting when things don't go their way, and that doesn't build the character that you need in order to get through this world.
Correct. Or just even how to deal with being coached.
Right.
Like that's be the hardest thing.
Yeah.
Because you have to learn that you're not always going to be great, and somebody's going to push you.
Yeah.
And it's
You got to be critiqued.
got to be critiqued. You got to be competitive. You got to learn how, like you said, some people can be better than you. How do you raise your game, and how do you learn how to hold your weight but hit the team goal? Like where some people, I hit mine, I got mine, but we lost.
Right.
And like that don't work.
Yeah.
Because you put up 30, you do a mellow, you hit 30, but you lost by 10. That don't mean nothing. Like nobody cares.
We didn't achieve the goal that we all set out to achieve.
Yeah,
the goal was the win.
Goal was to win. So
Right.
team sports, I think, are imperative. I'm very big and a very big advocate of football, because football, is one of those, you don't have to be talented, you just have to work hard, and that's a very different sport than a lot of sports where you have to have the ability, whether hand-eye coordination or just motor skills. Football, you can be taught most positions on the field. Now, as you grow, then the gap happens based off skills, but anybody could play as long as you have the desire and the work ethic to play. So I'm very big on that, because that's one of those baselines where anybody can get in, as long as you have the heart, which I think is like business. Like you can get in business as long as you have the heart to do it, and be willing to put the work in.
And so time management is important. So as you were saying with football, anybody can play it. In order to get good at it, you got to put in the time. Right. And so just piggybacking off what we were discussing the last time we got on was time management. And the time that you put into something is very, it absolutely, it just has an extreme just an impact on the outcome of your success.
Correct.
It's very hard to spread yourself too thin and achieve the goals that you want to achieve, because things require gasoline. You know what I'm saying? And you got to be focused on one thing, as you were saying with the Apple analogy when we were speaking before. Apple, they kind of just condensed what they wanted to own the market in. Windows and Microsoft had kind of taken up the space on the software piece, and Apple just kind of they were all over the place. And then they just sat down and said, "Listen, we're gonna do MacBook, and we're gonna launch a phone. Period. And we're gonna change the game." So just to pivot to time management, I just want to jump right in and just ask, how do you now? So first of all, first question would be, how do you rate your time management from a scale of 1 to 10? 1 being I just kind of get up and go with the flow, and number 10 is I got things ironed out the night before, what I'm gonna do hour to hour, minute to minute.
I'm about an 8.
About an 8.
Yeah, I'm very big on having structure, and that's from my sports background. So I'm an 8, but because I leave things open so that variables can happen. When you're too rigid, you can't. For me, you can't be able to.
It almost sounds like you don't leave enough space if you're at 8 for stuff to happen.
No, I don't think so. Because what I do is I do blocks. Like I do things in blocks. So like, for me, I get up at 4 o'clock in the morning. So from 4 to 5, I practice my scripts. I'll do my journaling, stuff like that. And then at 5 to 7:30, I'm in the gym, or 5:30, 7:30, whatever. I'm in the gym. And then after that, I'm back on the phone. Go home, eat breakfast, whatever. Then I'm on the phone making my sales calls and trying to connect with people. And I do hour-and-a-half blocks. Like I call for hour and a half, stop for like 20 minutes. Then I do some follow-ups for another hour, stop for 20 minutes. And so it gives me that sprint stop so that you don't
burn out.
Yeah, you know what I mean? And you're still effective.
Yeah.
So like, that's why I say I'm an 8, because I know that I'm just gonna work in 90-minute blocks, so that it's structured, but it's not so rigid where it's like it's 8 o'clock. I'm not on the phone. Or I'm not at this certain place at 8 o'clock. You know, you start panicking.
Yeah.
But it's like, okay, I just got to do this for an hour and a half. Sit down, do it for an hour and a half. That's done. Then move on to the next thing. So that's why I think I'm at 8.
It's like the Marines, man. You doing more before 6 o'clock before most of the world.
I got to, bro. I got to. Because for me, like, once it's 10 o'clock, I feel like the day is... Once you get to 10 to 12 to me, day's over. Because everybody's in that downswing. People are not as focused. Everybody's kind of in their thing of like 5, 6 o'clock. It's like, all right, you trying to get everything done to go home.
So have you always been a morning person?
Always.
Okay. Because
Since I was a kid.
Because that's a real thing. Like, so there are morning people and there are night people, and that's just a chemical thing that exists.
Yeah.
And so I was reading an article where it was saying that in the workplace, having a structured 9 to 5 for all of the employees is actually unproductive. It's more unproductive because you have people that thrive in the morning before the sun comes up, and then you have people that don't really get it churning, don't really get a good lather going till like 11, which is me. Like,
Definitely,
which is me.
Definitely.
Like, cause I'm just a night owl. Period. I when I burn the midnight oil, that's when I get my best thoughts out, because to me it's probably the same thing for people in the morning where it's so quiet and it's still, you actually have access to your thoughts. Whereas for me at night, I feel like that's when I really start to think about things. After I feel like I've taken my time and enjoyed what the earth has given me. So where did you develop just the habit of building the structure? Because that takes discipline in order to just say, I'm gonna plan my day in these blocks. Like, how did you develop that system?
So from sports, you know, especially when I was in high school, I used to always do the morning lifting. I never did night lifting. So that was just a thing for me to get up and get it out the way. You know, something about me was always get whatever I don't want to do first out the way when I have the most energy, because I don't have to worry about it for the rest of the day. So I was always like that. And then when I went to college, you know, you aren't more of a time schedule when it comes to sports, because they're regulating your time. Like, they're telling you where you have to be at a certain time, and everything started at 5 in the morning. So 5 in the morning was just a thing. Yeah. And then kind of stuck with me.
Yeah, that stayed with you.
Stayed with me. And then, you know, I went through different trainings and different books and learned things from different coaches who just were kind of like how to set your day up properly for you to work. And I forget where I learned the 90-minute blocks. I mean, I want to say it was from this guy named Josh. I might be wrong, but he was like, you know, in the sales world, they look at it and say, you know, you need to spend 3 hours on the phone to get a certain amount of contacts. You know what I mean? Like,
back to the 80-20.
Back to 80-20. Yeah. But if you look at it, nobody can be on the phone making phone calls for 3 hours straight, because you're gonna lose effectiveness in your you know, your sales or speech. You know, you're just not gonna be as, you know, on point. Yeah. So he was like, break it up, because you can do it for 90 minutes. Is just getting going, where by the time you start getting aggravated with it or not getting as much results, you're stopping. So you're still fresh and it's still top of mind. And then you give yourself a half an hour break so that you can break it up, and then you can go right back into it, but not feeling like, oh my God, I gotta do another hour. Like, that's, I think, the hard part. So that really worked for me, and I just kept doing it. But it was just getting around different people and like being open to, how do you do your thing? How does it work? And then I was like, oh, I could do that. Because short attention spans, I think people have short attention spans anyway.
Yeah, I certainly do.
Yeah, so the quicker, you know, the less time is not dragged out, the better you are being effective.
So are you a detailed person or a big picture?
No.
So
big picture.
So you're more big picture than detail.
I'm a visionary. I see the big picture. When you start talking down to the minute detail, I'm gonna get frustrated and flip the table. Like, yo, just do something. I'd rather do something and make not a wrong decision, but imperfect action to me is better than no action. Yeah. No. Yeah, that's actually I agree, and I see that a lot in business.
and that's another thing about it. It actually blends in with time management, right? Because indecision takes time.
Correct.
And you could be paralyzed. They call it paralysis by analysis, right?
Yep.
But that comes from that is the result of not knowing what I say, what you want to be when you grow up. And it's more for businesses, right?
Yep.
Or people that are aspiring to attract something.
Yep.
When you don't know what you want to be, then anything that comes your way, you're gonna have a hard time assessing whether that's the thing for you or not.
Yes.
So uncertainty is something that you cannot be. That cannot be a part of your day.
No.
You almost have to get into the habit of making a decision, one way or the other, and determining whatever that decision-making process is for you.
Yes.
But you have to get there because time is always of the essence if you're trying to achieve a goal.
Yes.
Right.
And you have to at least know you got to shoot at something, you know, and it's the ability to be in the mark, may not be on the mark, but in the mark. And I think that's sometimes people don't do because you want to be dead on, but sometimes you're just not going to be dead on. But you got to shoot and to see where it ends.
Right. So that's shoot for the moon.
Yeah.
And if you miss,
stars,
you're among the stars.
Yeah.
Right.
I think that analogy really makes sense because a lot of people don't take the shot because you want to be perfect, and 9 times out of 10, you're not going to be perfect the first time out. But you have to shoot because that gives you the confidence to keep shooting.
Right. You got to play to win. Don't play to lose.
And just be okay.
Don't play not to lose.
Don't play not to lose, and just be okay. Like, don't look at the result. I try to tell myself, don't look at the results. Look at the activities. Like, are you getting good at doing the activities?
Right.
So that's what I would think I've always had a hard time with the traditional way of sales, because sometimes everybody's looking at the result, but I'm going, are you getting good at the activities that create the result? Because you can do all of that, get all the results you want, but it may not always, the numbers to me always don't match up to what's going on. Because you can have a hot streak just because you were in the right place at the right time and people were ready. But then what happens when things change and the market shifts, or what you had as your hitch or your sales hook doesn't work anymore?
Yeah.
That's the ability to know your skills.
Yeah.
And I think understanding the activities, understanding the things that bring you the best return on your investment, that means just as much as the results, because then you can cater to what's working and tweak.
Yeah, you have to get used to not getting an immediate return for your action.
Correct.
Right. So that's resisting the urge of what this microwave society has conditioned us to get used to.
Yeah.
Right. You take an immediate action, you should automatically get something back.
Correct.
Right. And that's just the mindset of somebody who's purchasing something. If I'm giving you money, I want an immediate return, which is so you actually are in that as a realtor where people are asking you to represent them and they want an immediate result on stuff. And so that, so that market, just because you don't know when it's going to come.
Correct.
But if you stay with it long enough, eventually it comes. The
Yep.
challenge is, do your clients have the patience in order like to withstand that ride?
As you always say, you gotta let the cake bake.
Yeah.
Gotta bake that cake. It's gotta rise. It's gotta settle. It's gotta do its thing. So, and that just takes patience and expectations. You have to set the right expectations for yourself and for the world around you, because you push too fast or push too hard, things will mess up.
Yeah, and you'll miss opportunities to capitalize on something else that's there. One of the things that I'm very sensitive about when it comes to time is not discounting what I perceive not to be of value to me at face value, right? So depending on how something approaches me, I always try to give it just time for me to either learn something or not learn something, because each engagement, you will either learn something or you should learn something. Period,
Everything,
right?
every interaction.
Right. You might learn that you didn't learn anything, and but you're still learning.
Yep.
And all right, if I see this scenario again, I know that it's not worth my time,
Mm-hmm.
right? So time management, one of the things that I incorporate
Mm-hmm.
as an element of time management is how I take away information from people, right?
Okay.
Because you said you invest in people, right, in
Yeah.
relationships, but the value that we get from people doesn't always show itself,
No.
and unfortunately, most of society American society has a bad reputation or a bad habit of trying to assess a value based off of what they see.
Yes.
And so I'm very cognizant of spending time with people who I would say stereotypically probably don't represent value to the larger subset of the world,
Mm-hmm.
right? Taking the time to talk to everybody and anybody, no matter what position they're in, no matter where they're working,
Mm-hmm.
no matter where I see them, small,
Mhm.
young, old, because to me there's something to learn in every interaction,
Yes.
and you never know when that one thing can stimulate a thought
Mm-hmm.
that could solve a problem or help you get to
True.
your goal.
Yeah.
You know.
I agree wholeheartedly.
So, what are some of the tools that you're using, if any, to help structure your day?
Google Calendar.
You like Google Calendar?
That's why I run my life off of Google Calendar.
Okay.
Because it goes the alerts to my phone,
Yeah.
color coded. That's just simple and easy for me.
Mhm.
You're right. Thing for me, I've gotten okay with technology where it's on my phone, I can run with it, and it's backup for it. So, paper, I lose paper a lot.
You lose paper a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, so paper's not effective for me. Paper's effective for me for writing down my thoughts and getting my chicken scratch out, but it's not effective for me for running time management or managing my day and things
Yeah.
I need to take care of.
Yeah.
Because I'll forget appointments or something like that.
Yeah.
I learned that like early. Like you have to have a better system other than your brain.
Mm-hmm.
Google Calendar works.
Yeah. Cool. All right. So, another component of time management that people have to manage is relationships.
Yes.
Personal, professional, right?
Family.
Family. So, question is, how do you manage your goals that you're trying to achieve as a professional,
Mhm.
and then incorporate, relationships and personal fun? Obviously, you're not working all day, but it may seem like that.
Mhm.
Like when you're trying to achieve a goal, it may
Yeah.
seem like that's all you're doing. Either when you're working, and then when you come home, you're watching the game, and then by the way, you might be dating people, and then
Mhm.
when you're with them,
Checking email.
they might think you're checking email.
Yeah.
You might not be giving it as
You're
much
not
time.
present. Yeah, you're not
right.
present.
You're not present. Doesn't mean that you're not necessarily interested in establishing a healthy relationship. It just means that you're trying to, or at least
You are, but
you might not be aware that you're
the
neglecting
habits, yeah.
and what people need. So
because you're so focused on that goal.
right, because that's important. Because all we've been told is that what is it? 80% of relationships fail because of finances, right? So it's a high number.
80, yeah.
Whatever it is, it's a high number.
Yeah. Anything over 50 is a high number.
Well, that's just that's the divorce rate,
Yeah, exactly.
right? And then they say and the divorce rate is 50, and then they're like 75% of the reason why people get divorced is because of finances.
I would say like 95% of the reason.
Right? And so as a man, we're always worried about the security piece because that's what we are responsible for. We are responsible for providing shelter
Mhm.
and the food,
Mhm.
right? And so it's important to have that communication right on the outset
Yeah.
about how you're spending your time with your mate.
Yeah.
You want to let her know that, or in the female's case, him know that what your goals are, what you're trying to achieve,
Yeah.
what your usual life looks like, and how you plan on incorporating them into that environment.
To your world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so we wanted to add
Special guests.
special guests, a different voice to the conversation,
A female voice.
Female
the first
voice.
female voice.
The first female voice.
First female voice. Miss Tracy Joseph. I'm gonna give her a call.
We're gonna give Tracy a call. Now, and Tracy has her own business.
Yes. I'll let her explain her world to us.
We're gonna call Tracy.
It's called Tracy.
Hello.
Hello, Miss Tracy. You're on 2 with Dre and E, the On 2 podcast. How
What's
you
up,
feeling
Tracy?
this evening?
Hi, guys.
How you doing?
I'm doing well.
Cool.
A little nervous.
Don't be nervous.
Come
We
on
don't
now.
bite.
We're family now. Now, so me and Dre just been talking about managing time, both professionally and personally, and how you incorporate your time management, how you structure things in your life. And so, before we get into that, we want to have you just share a little bit about yourself and your business.
So, a lot of individuals know me as the visionary behind Cake Spell Delightful Baking. However, I also have executive HR consulting services as well. I am an entrepreneur, always have been, and Cake Spell, which everyone knows me by, it's like your homemade, in the kitchen, grandma's, baked goods. I do everything from banana pudding to German chocolate to just red velvet, any specialty cakes. If you have an idea, I can 9 times out of 10 master it. I get that percentage for the crazy people that want to do like just off the wall things that I'm just gonna say no to.
Okay. So I can just send you a picture of Mickey Mouse or Minnie Mouse and be like, can you put this on? Can you make my cake, Minnie Mouse cake for my 8-year-old? You can do that?
Absolutely. I have an edible printer, for business. I'm looking into a 3D printer,
okay.
A lot of favors, the macros and things of that nature.
Dang, you might
that
qualify
everyone's
for.
going to.
You might qualify for an advanced manufacturing incentive from the state. You using 3D printers.
Well, once I invest in that, then I can look into that. Yes.
Cool.
So thank you.
Cool.
But everything is homemade from scratch, and I take pride in that. So it takes a lot of TLC and time to actually have the end result for everyone to just destroy it anyways, as my son said. So, I'm Tracy. I don't know. I don't really talk much about myself. So.
Yeah.
Well, you're on the podcast now, so you gotta talk about yourself.
So you have a website, Tracy?
Website for Cake Spell? No, I do not.
Can they find you on Facebook?
I do have Facebook
All
and
right.
Instagram under Cake Spell Delightful Baking. And for Instagram, it's Cake Spell _delightful _baking.
Okay, perfect. And we'll make sure to put that up for the people paying attention to the podcast for you. All right.
And so
Absolutely.
managing all of that, if you had to grade yourself, your time management skills on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being you just wake up in the morning and just go with the wind, to a 10 being you set yourself up from 6 months out, crazy, you have everything to the last minute documented and scheduled. Where would you grade yourself?
I would say honestly a 7, right? There's always room for improvement. And I just don't look at it as personal / business. I separate, because I'm a single mother as well, one thing that you have to learn as you mature in motherhood is that, yes, you love your kids, you ride for your kids, you give everything to them. However, you also have to nurture yourself. So I separate my time for me time, personal time, which, friends, fall into that, dating falls into that. Then you have your work, and then, you have your kids and family. That falls into that. So with everything being balanced, right now, and I'm still within my first year of entrepreneurship with the cake business. I would say a 7. I see room for improvement, and I need to tighten up. And one thing I'm doing is punctuality. I got a little lazy being an entrepreneur, and I can say I can roll, out of bed when I want to, and that's not really beneficial when you're running your own show either. So
You sound like E.
No. Kind of for real, but no.
Yes,
I see Tracy. I told him I'm not a morning person. So when I roll out of bed, I like to take my time. That don't mean I'm not punctual. But
I think you trying to make that sound a soft landing.
Huh?
I am a morning person. I will get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, and I am so chipper, and the kids are like, "Mom, what are you making for breakfast?" And I'm like, "I don't know. Like, you want strawberry pancakes? You want chocolate chip waffles? Like, what is it? Let's do it." And it's the nighttime that really, like, right now I'm looking at the clock and I'm ready to go in the house.
You ready to plan for tomorrow?
Yeah,
That's cool.
I got you. So Tracy, when you're looking at somebody you're interested in dating or potentially getting to know, what are some of the filters or questions that you like to ask them to figure out if they they could fit into your world?
I learned not to really have a true set of questions, because when you are operating on a checklist or questions, you're missing the totality of that person, right? Because you're focusing on that area that's specifically driven. So if you want someone with money, you're going to ask them about how much they're making. What do they do? So you can get a price point. And a lot of guys don't even realize that. Like, a female can say, "Oh, so what do you do?" And, and you may feel like she's into you, but she's really trying to see what bracket you really fall in.
Man, that sounds like stereotyping.
Females do that.
Ooh,
Females do that.
you put that out there in the world. You put that out there in the world.
I did, because when you're operating off of a checklist, you want to make sure that box is checked. You have an objective instead of looking at that person and saying, "Can I grow with you? Can I bond with you? Can you speak life into me? Can I speak life into you? Are we going to be willing to go through these challenges together?" So I don't really operate from a checklist. Now, if you're sitting with me and we're conversing and we're just having a natural conversation, and then I'm picking up something from you based upon your mannerism, based upon some key words that you're speaking, I'm going to, act on that. That's my time to say, so what do you feel like, what's going to happen? And actually, it just happened, and the guy didn't even realize, his change and his
Hold on, Tracy. Set this up for us now. You just went into.
We went to an
example.
Went to an example. He wants you to set up. He's very big on details, so you can't just get to the end of the story.
Yeah.
You gotta give him the start, the beginning, the middle, and the end.
Yeah, you gotta set that up for us, Tracy.
No names. Don't incriminate yourself. Don't incriminate yourself on two podcasts. We do not do that here.
No, I would never do that. That's not nice.
Okay.
No, I was just, actually catching up with an individual I went to school with, and he was telling me about his life and things of that nature. And for some reason, I'm kind of like the counselor, amongst my friends about dating. I can help other people dating life. I can't really help mine.
Yeah,
But
trusted
that's another
advisor.
story. So now he's telling me about, he was in a bad accident. And, it took him some time to recuperate and things of that nature. And he was telling me that he was with a female at that time off and on for 4 years. And so I said, okay, well, you had a little bit of help and, so you're going to be okay. Like, you're all right now. And he kind of looked down, and I'm very big with body language. So he looked down, and I said, well, what did she do? And can articulate himself very well, and he went straight to slang. That touched him emotionally. So I said, all right, well, let me evaluate this. Is her nothing like just getting you some soup and sitting down minding her business, or nothing meaning nothing? He said she didn't do anything. And I said, so you never figured out why you never proposed to this woman, never moved forward with her, but that was a big signal. That was a big sign for you. She had no nurturing bone. You're telling me that you lay with this person day in and day out, can see them, can talk to them, can go out to dinner, but they get into a major car accident, and she couldn't even bring you a bowl of soup. She couldn't see what kind of meds you were on to make sure that, everything is being coordinated correctly. She couldn't, sit there and say, what do you need? Do you need groceries? Do you need me to cook? She had no nurturing. So that is a characteristic that you need when you're looking for a mother for your kids.
And a partner.
And so do you have...
And a partner.
Oh, yeah.
So...
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Now I'm looking at him, and I'm just like, why did you continue the relationship? Because now I'm looking at where's your codependency at? And if I ever think about, choosing you as an option to even date, what is your hold on this other female?
Mm-hmm.
And vice versa. So I look at things a little deep to where it can lead into other ways.
Yeah.
I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah. So, so with regards to your time, and because it sounds like you have plenty to manage between your children, your business. So, do you have any leading questions that are telltale signs that help you get to a point, or at least a determination about whether someone is viable for you or not? So, like for me, for instance, one of my litmus questions is...
Oh, God.
One of my litmus questions is, do you know who Tevin Campbell is?
Oh, God.
That tells me right away.
Oh,
if you don't know
God.
who Tevin Campbell is, you might be a little too young for me.
Oh, my God.
I mean, you can't fuss about how she carried herself. Like, that's a tell sign, too. But then, is it really accurate? Because I was an old soul at heart. I knew who Campbell, Tevin Campbell was because I listened to all of his CDs. Like, that was just, like, my guy.
Mm-hmm.
And it's safe to say that we might be around the same age, but that didn't mean anything to a guy that I may have been dating that was older than me.
Sure.
I like the Aretha Franklin and, Sade and things of that nature. So
that's just an example of like
That's
one of my
East
leading
idiosyncrasies. That's East idiosyncrasy.
Yeah.
He tries to stereotype people off the rip and cancel them.
Right off the cuff.
Right off the cuff.
Yeah.
So let me ask you, Tracy, do you date anybody, or you guys to say differently, with your respect to time and responsibilities that you have? So do you have a way or a system in yourself set up for how you choose to approach certain situations based off who you're dealing with or where they're at in their worlds?
I don't really judge anyone based upon where they're at currently, because I don't know where they're going. I don't know their goals, their mind frame, just their work ethic. The most important thing for me is conversation. Can we actually talk? Can you hold my attention? Can I hold your attention? And off the rip, I'm not going to say, pick me up and take me out to dinner. It's an easy phone conversation, a walk in the park, or let's go to Starbucks, because if you're not speaking or have anything to share of substance, I'm going to look at my phone and say, well, I got to go. And that's in and out. Like, I'm not going to waste any more time. I know what it is. I have done that before.
So how do you how do you communicate what your schedule is, managing the things that you're managing? How do you give the person that you could potentially be dating a heads up, right? So this is about setting expectations. So just because someone may be coming from a situation, or they just might be used to texting someone and responding a certain way, and you might respond a little different, which may throw them off. How important is it for you to just lay the groundwork down just in the beginning, saying, hey, listen, this is what I have going on. These are the times that I can communicate, and this is the method that I'm using to communicate. Do you set the table that way typically?
I feel that I'm very much, a natural person. So if you're talking and we're vibing, that's going to come up naturally with, what do you do? And then we're going to get to speaking about, are you busy? How often are you, availability? And at which point I'm going to say, a lot of things are played by ear. I have been saying very recent that if you don't set a time and date now, waiting the day before may not be a good look. You might not catch me.
Mm-hmm.
So that lets, the individual know, like, okay, I'm thinking about this date to this date. How does that sound? I'll check my calendar and say, okay, that could work. Just let me know soon.
Mm-hmm.
And, we go from there. It's not, and everyone's different. I'm not really big on texting. I know some individuals that are, they don't like picking up the phone. I get it. Some people speak emoji language. I'm not going to mention no names. But I'm not. I'm very old school in that way. Like, I want to see how your punctuation is. I want to see if you catch your own mistakes. I want to see how you articulate yourself, written form, verbally. Like, it's just, I don't know. Maybe I'm weird.
No, you yourself. So let me ask you this: what tips would you give women in your situation or similar situations to you that are building their own business, have a family, and are trying to manage both their love life and their business life and being a career woman? What advice would you like to give them, or women that are younger, just starting off their career or their journey?
Be patient. Observe. Don't be so quick to speak. A lot of things can be revealed through time. Time tells its own story. Expectations are a placeholder for reality. And don't get caught up in a guy, and don't allow him to, place value on your work. You should already have that established before you even look at another individual. And make sure you're not throwing yourself into work as a defense either.
That's a big one. All right. You got any more questions for Miss Tracy?
Man, yeah. So I think that my last question was similar to what she articulated, but my question was, if you had to have a conversation with your younger self that was in a position to listen to everything that you've, all of your experiences that you've accumulated today, what would you tell your younger self?
Ooh, a lot. A lot. I think the biggest one was, I was in politics for a little while, and I looked at a minority, one of the actual was a male, that was there as, somewhat of a mentor. And his advice kind of stood with me for a long time, which caused me to dumb down myself. Because I was young, I was black, educated, and female. And he told me basically working in corporate America and being in politics, that's threatening. You have to dumb yourself down. And stupidly, I did it. So,
and what did that mean? Like, what was he referring to in terms of dumbing it down?
know that you know so much. Don't speak, intelligently about a subject. Like,
And did he think, was he giving you that information because he thought he was protecting you, or was you think he was trying to protect himself from what you might become?
I think it was a little bit of both.
Okay. I think he was threatened by you.
I think he meant well.
Okay.
Because he wanted me to get into the door, but getting into the door, being confident, and being all those things would not have opened the door, because a lot of people would have seen that as aggressive and
intimidating,
maybe overzealous, and oh, you think she knows too much.
Okay.
When in all actuality, I was well versed in those topics. So he said to basically dumb it down until you get into that door, which it caused a reverse effect. Me to be very quiet and almost timid. So I think about that to the old prophet, to the young prophet. You have to be careful about the limitations that people set on you, because it's sometimes them seeing their own limitations. So that's what I would tell my younger self. Be careful.
And just quickly, did you have any mentors, either professionally or personally, that you could bounce ideas off of when this person was around, or were you just kind of blazing a trail of your own making?
My older sister, her perseverance spoke to me. And then when I got into the workforce in my career, it was a boss of mine who I watched how she handled certain situations and kind of gave them the Southern belle. Sometimes being a female in corporate America, you got to know when to bow out gracefully and when to inject yourself. And I kind of sat and watched how she handled that, and how she was always learning and keeping up, and it was almost like a race. So I kind of watched that and see how she made the mistakes and how she poured into me and, kind of held my hand and dragged me along. And so I do that now for others. If I can push you up and, put you in a position where you're grinding and making a better life for yourself, then I'm going to do that.
Cool.
All right, Miss Tracy. Well, I appreciate you taking time out your day to speak with us and be on the On 2 podcast with Dre and E.
Well, thank you for having me. I hope I answered all your questions, and, you can always text me if I missed something.
You did a great job, Tracy.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, have a good one.
Cool.
You too.
All right, Tracy. Cool.
That was a lot.
Yeah,
that was
cool.
It was a great perspective, especially from a woman.
Yeah, we needed that for sure.
Because we can only speak from the male perspective.
Yeah, and there was a lot there, man.
Anything that struck out to you?
Oh man! So when she was talking about tips that she would give her younger self, the first thing that she said was, "Don't be so quick to speak." Right, which is, to me, is I get that. I think that's a really good tip.
Yeah.
That's a really good tip, is don't speak too quick. Give yourself time to really absorb what is happening, and then ask yourself before you respond, why are you responding?
Yeah.
Right? Are you responding because you're trying to prove something to an audience about the way that they perceive you to be?
Yeah.
Are you responding because you have the answer and you want everyone to know you have the answer? Or is this something else?
Yeah.
Right? Just be clear about why you're engaging when you engage, and then what result you're looking for.
Yeah.
Like, so oftentimes knee-jerk reaction. We're just trying to
King of knee-jerk reactions.
respond to something. Is that me? I'm the king of knee-jerk.
I'm busy.
Man, that was one time.
That was one time.
That was one. That was one time.
Oh my
That was
god.
one time. I'm busy.
That's your slogan.
Nah, hey,
Let's see.
that's not true.
Oh my god.
That's not true.
That's not true.
But enough about me.
Oh man. I thought she gave a lot of great jewels. I think one thing that stuck out to me that she said, which is something I've always harped on, is when you date, don't date with expectations. Just date the person in front of you, and just get the experience.
Yeah.
And that's hard, especially this day with everything being so, like you said, microwave and instant, where you can have so much stimulation from Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, Snapchat. You don't really take the time to connect, and then if you say you have that checklist or punch list, you're not really seeing the person for what they could be. You're just trying to see, do they meet these certain requirements, and then
Yeah, I think you have to be careful too about a checklist versus asking the questions that you need in order to get to an answer that's gonna help you move forward or not. You know, the thing that I think most people tend to grapple with is how soon you ask certain questions.
Yep.
How soon is too soon?
yeah.
And the older you get, the quicker you need to get to
To
those,
the
to
too
those
soon
answers.
too soon questions, yeah.
Right? And that could be a number of different things for different
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's, I don't know, you just, that's just something to think about,
Mm-hmm.
you know? But that kind of tails into self-development,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it's, you know, how are you incorporating different principles and what are you learning from your experiences
Mhm.
that are going to help you become a better you,
Yeah.
right? And that's why we asked a question about, you know, what are some of the questions that you ask when you go out to try to probe to figure out, you know, is this person worth moving forward with?
True.
So we got Tracy's perspective
On dating
on dating
and time management.
and time management.
Yes.
All right. So, gotta kick it to you, brother.
Oh man, don't put me on the hot seat.
It ain't hot, man. It's nothing to be hot about.
Yeah,
It's
you
just
right.
what it is.
Yeah,
right?
you got the flame blower over there.
No, it's not a flamethrower. Come on now. But time management is real. Some people do sweat under the pressure.
I don't sweat.
You know. So there you go. So it's nothing to be. You ain't on the hot seat. Here we go.
And he starts laughing. Yeah.
Yeah. So what about you? How do you sort through it all? How do you manage your time? I mean, obviously you get a lot out of the way early in the morning, and you're free by 12.
Not free,
Not
but
free.
I got my
but
stuff
you-
done.
but
I got my stuff done.
Yes, you got your stuff out of the way.
Yeah.
How does that translate, and what are you seeing out there with regards to the way that the people that you're interacting with are managing their time? Is that being an issue? Have you seen that be a challenge for you with the way that you manage your time versus the way that they manage their time?
For me, it's an issue because my priorities are a little different. I'm not a night owl like you, so I'm in bed before 10 or maybe by 10. And the nights I do push it late, like it messes up my morning, so I'm a little more irritable.
Okay.
So, you know, managing my time for me with dealing with other people is like I deal with everybody kind of like you. They get their lather at 11, and I'm kind of in the downswing of my day. So it's a balance that I haven't perfected, and my mode of communication isn't always the best, and I noticed that about myself. You know,
Which is what?
I rather text than talk because I'm always on the phone dealing with work.
Okay.
So because I have to call people just to make cold calls or follow-up calls or lawyers, attorneys, banks and stuff like that, I'm just not one person to be on the phone just to chit-chat.
Okay.
So it can come across as not being interested, but it's just my ability to control my world, and then also what ends up happening and for me a lot is I could be on the phone with you, and then my work phone goes off, and I gotta cut this conversation short to go pick that up, and I may forget to call you back, or just get caught up in that world, and then that creates another thing. You know, whereas your phone's always going off, and it's like I gotta pick it up because it's work, so I can't not pick it up. So and it's managing that, which is
So
it's it's a tough juggling act for me.
Right, and because you're self-employed, you're always on the clock.
Yeah.
Right? You never punch out.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So how do you set the expectations for the other side? Do you think you do a pretty good job of letting them know what your world looks like?
I'm 50-50. I think I probably don't do a good job, to be honest, because my world is different, and sometimes I don't want to scare anybody off the rip, you know. So I kind of just give windows or glimpses into it, and I don't think, like I said, I don't think I'm like the best at it, but you give windows and glimpses, and I kind of just go, I want to take care of what I got to take care of, and then where I could pick my spots to be available, I do that, and there's room for improvement.
What do you think is scary to people about
what I do?
Yeah.
You know what? I spent about 10 years in a relationship with my last relationship, and I remember at certain points, like you could be at the restaurant with this person, and you know you could be, we've gone to happy hours, and people, what do? I'm in real estate. Everybody either wants the house, or is thinking about a house, or knows somebody's buying a house, and those conversations can happen so naturally that at times I would see her being frustrated by it. Like this thing doesn't turn off, and it's like, not that I don't want it to turn off, but it's such an easy conversation that everybody can have that it's gonna be a thing, and I never know. Like I never know where my next client could come from, because I could be at a birthday party, I could be at a barbecue, I could be, we've gone out on nights where we're drinking, and next thing you know, it turns into a business conversation. Yeah. So you have to be on, and for that person in that period of where we were at, I felt more resentment. Maybe that's not where they were coming from, but how I took it on my side was resentment to what I did, and it caused some strife.
Yeah. So how much of that do you think has to do with maturity? Do you think if you start that same relationship, not necessarily with the same person, but do you think if there was something that you knew you had to tweak and you could tweak it, do you think the outcome would be the same based on maturity, just lack of maturity, and what people have to experience and understand what business is after a while? Because young people, we don't, when you're young, you don't know.
And we were young.
You just feel like, when I'm with you, you should be with me.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah. So I would definitely say that, for that relationship, we were young in those moments when those things were happening. So I was probably progressing in a world that my peers, like, most of my peers weren't at that time. Everybody worked a 9 to 5. But I also think it's understanding the different worlds of, you work a 9 to 5 job. I work I work till I'm up when I'm up, and I work till I fall asleep, kind of. And I set my parameters. But I also think as an entrepreneur, you have to set your parameters of, I'm not answering my phone after a certain time. I don't answer my phone before a certain time, because that also is a respect to the person that's in your world. Like, it can't be 24/7, 365. Sure. Like that's just not possible, and it has to be limitations to people having access to you.
Yeah, boundaries.
There has to be boundaries. So, and I will say, at that period of my life when you're trying to build a business, I didn't have many boundaries. So it wasn't all her, and definitely was me. So I had my faults in it. I think now it's more understanding that world and saying, hey, we just live two different types of ways, but here's how I will bring my thing to not an end, but like a manageable spot where there's room for you in it. And hey, here's what I can do, here's what I can't do, so that they know.
Did she share her goals, like with you, like what her aspirations were
at that time?
Yeah. Do you think that's important?
Well,
to share in the beginning, like when you, because
that's like, to be fair, when I was with this person, we started when we was like 20. So like,
right,
so that's
right,
yeah,
right.
yeah,
And
you,
not,
that's
not necessarily
that person. Okay.
Yeah, not necessarily talking about your particular situation,
Okay.
but just going back to the high level
dealing
situation
with somebody.
of just managing time management.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of that has, you know, when you know what you're shooting for,
Yes.
it should be easier to communicate to someone what the life looks like. Right.
I completely agree. I think the hard part is some people don't have that.
Don't have which part?
The goals.
The goals.
What am I
Okay.
shooting for?
Okay.
You know, because that does come with a cost. Like a coach that I really respect had always said, everything in our world comes to a trade-off. You know, when I'm saying yes to you, I'm saying no to something else.
Right.
So I didn't really think of it like that until I heard a position like that. And I think on this side, as an entrepreneur, somebody just as self-employed or doing those things, you have to understand what the trade-offs are. You know, when you decide to work late, what are you doing to the other aspects of your life? Because there's not going to be anything. There's no such thing as balance. Like I've gotten rid of that idea. We're never going to be 50-50 on anything in our life. There's going to be points where different areas or different things of our life just take more of us, and we have to give more to it to get the desired result we're looking for. But it's just, okay, it can't be never ending. It has to have a cutoff point. You have to have an end goal to it so that you can get back to the other thing and then pour back into that. And then, like you said, we have to give the expectation so that people can understand exactly what and why we're doing it. So then when you're not all the way present, they don't build resentment or that doesn't create a gap in distance in communication so that you can have a healthy relationship. I think I know that more now. So now I look for somebody that I can have that kind of dialogue with or understanding so that there isn't too many gaps.
Yeah.
Because there are going to be gaps.
Sure.
And you know, no relationship is perfect.
Sure.
But you want to make sure that at least these few things we can deal with off the rip, so when they happen, we already have a plan in place to deal with it. We have an understanding of how to get back to one.
Right.
What about you?
What about me? What about it?
Let the people in, E. They want to know
What's up?
about you, bro.
What's up? What's up?
How do you manage? What do you do? Besides Tevin Campbell, what do you do?
Yeah, the Tevin Campbell thing is just funny to me because, you know, I'm like, damn, you don't know Tevin Campbell? Can we talk for?
All right.
You know, that kind of just tells me, all right, that's how you show me your ID without asking for it,
That's a lot.
right?
That's
It's a little thing,
Yeah.
but what was the question?
How do you manage your time with dating or finding time for a potential mate?
I guess it's not too complicated for me. I guess it's not too complicated for me. When I'm available, I'm available.
So how do you explain that to a woman then? Like that don't make us available. No woman just takes that as like, oh, okay.
Yeah,
that's not how that works.
Yeah, no. I do try to be as detailed as possible.
Okay.
I get in trouble for telling stories when I'm talking to people because I try to paint a picture.
Mm-hmm.
Because for me, if I tell people I'm going out of town next week to this conference, then in the beginning, then they don't feel enough ownership to be able to to really pry about it. So it's incumbent upon me to explain what conference I'm going to, what happens at the conference, how long I've been going. I really try to paint a picture about how I'm spending my time, because most of the time, especially professionally, people don't understand what I do professionally. And so I try to tell a story and try to be very detailed and just forthcoming about how I'm spending my time. And I do try to find spots and spaces where there's going to be availability.
Now, do you think you do that to disarm them and make them feel at ease? Or do you
Yeah.
feel like you do that to show that, you know, you're being above board? Like,
Yeah, I mean it's both, because I just don't have time for I don't have time for misunderstandings, because if I can help it, I don't want to spend time trying to explain something that you might feel threatened by when you have no business being threatened by it. So I try to get ahead of that by being very forthcoming and descriptive about what's happening, so you can get a sense of that. And then just try to gauge how you deal with that information, because to me, I feel if I'm giving you that much, especially for me, for someone who has to really work at communicating with people and giving a lot of information, that does not come natural to me.
Okay.
Because I'm just not used to talking to people. I grew up as an only child, so I wasn't having conversations with people most of the time. I was either watching TV or listening to music. Having conversations with myself, right, in my head, thinking about things. So me sharing and painting a picture is something that I had to develop, because people would say, "Well, you gotta give people more. You gotta give people more than that, Aaron. These yes and no, these one-word answers to these questions ain't getting it done." I'm like, "Well, I'm answering the question." Like,
what more do you want from me?
Like, you know, he asked me, "How you doing, Aaron?" "Fine." Right? I was one of those kids. Like, good. Because, and part of that was because my thing was, it was very empty. Questions like that were empty, because to me, I got stimulated by people that were around. Physical interaction was how I got stimulation. And so if I knew you were just asking me that, I was just like, she's not really asking this because she really wants to know. She's asking me this because it's uniform.
Space fillers.
It's just something that people do.
Yeah, space fillers. I hate those questions.
So I would save the bulk of myself for people that were around physically, that I was going to spend time with. And so I had to work at just sharing a little bit more with people, and then asking questions and not assuming, right? So if someone would ask me something, I would ask them a question about, well, are you familiar with this thing? And then if they responded no, then okay, now I gotta go back and like kind of give you some background about stuff before I tell you the answer to the question. I have to set it up, right? So someone described it to me as if someone asks you what time it is, you giving them the history of how a watch is made.
Yeah, how a clock is made.
Right.
Yeah, like how Big Ben ended up in London. That was what you were doing.
Yeah, but not it wasn't that bad, but I learned that was the way for me to get clarity in what someone was really asking for. Because sometimes people ask you questions and they're trying to get to something, but the answer that you give them doesn't get them there, so they ask a different question. And in your mind, you say, "I just answered your question. What are you really trying?" And so you can't say to someone, "What you really trying to get at?" Because that's combative, right? And then now you've created an environment.
Yeah, a hostile environment.
Right. So what I've learned to do is just make sure that I'm getting clarity about what somebody's asking. So if someone asks me a question, I'm not clear, or if I'm thinking, if I answer the question the way that I know I'm going to answer it, they won't be satisfied with that. So I try to ask a clarifying question as well on the back end before I get into it.
What tips would you give young men or men of our age who are single out there dating or trying to date, that are, because because you're a career-driven person, you have very strong goals, and more work in the corporate setting. What tips and advice would you give them for getting themselves in a position to date effectively?
Try to have clarity about what it is that you're trying to achieve first before you start getting out there and bringing somebody else into your world. Because you need to figure out if you're just trying to date because you're lonely, or you're trying to date because you're looking for a real partner and companion. Because those two things are really different. Because if you're just lonely, any old thing will do, because and warm your bed at night. But if you're looking for companionship, you should know exactly, well, not exactly, but you should have a pretty firm foundation about the goals that you're trying to achieve and where you are in that process. And you should be able to articulate that to that person, obviously with excitement and energy, so they can absorb that and then say, I want to be a part of that. I want to help you get to where you want to get to, because that's what you're looking for in a partner. You're looking for someone to say, I know what he's trying to do. I know what she's trying to do. Not only do I want to, not only do I not want to get in the way, I want to help them achieve that goal, because together we grow.
Correct.
Right? And so that's the environment that you're trying to set. So it's very important that you are very clear about your intentions when you're dating, and then try to be as forthcoming with that as possible. Just practice telling people the truth about what you're trying to do.
I think you should get start somewhere first. If you have to practice telling the truth, I mean, you shouldn't have to practice telling the truth.
No, you gotta practice. Think about it. How many cats really come forward with like, hey, listen, I'm not really trying to do nothing long term.
I think at a certain age, you gotta be okay with just saying, like, this is what it is, what it's not. Like you said, like, that's the truth of, hey, I'm just not in the space to look for a relationship, or I'm just doing me right now. Like, that's...
But see, you have to practice it. If you aren't used to doing that from a young age, you have to think about where you've developed habits and what you're used to. And so when you're young and you're coming up in an environment where game is gold.
This is true.
It's the king,
Very
right?
true.
It's about how to game somebody.
This is true.
Not give them the real, because you think if you give them the real,
They're not gonna want it.
you're leaving yourself susceptible to being hurt.
Vulnerability.
Or, right, either way. Or just being rejected, right? And you trying to get to what you want.
Trying to get to your goal.
Right?
Hook or crook.
Exactly. So, when you get older, you try to transition. You need to transition into manhood, which requires vulnerability and honesty, in order to achieve what you're trying to achieve, and not have something ancillary get in the way of it because you weren't honest about it in the past. Because those things come back to bite you.
Always.
Right. So you do have to practice being honest about things, because going back to time management, it's gonna waste your time trying to deal with this one thing that you planted a seed for, and when it grew into a tree, now you want to chop it down. You planted that seed.
Yeah, that was your fault.
So I think you do have to practice being honest, both with yourself and with other people. It's hard being honest with yourself,
I think
because
that's
that goes
where
back to the
start.
critique. It goes back to what you were saying about just being able to take critique from other people.
Yeah. Being self-aware. That's a very good way to look at it, and look at self-development. How are you growing yourself out of the boyhood things into manhood things? And we sometimes end up there, but don't necessarily progress there naturally. We don't push ourselves there. Like most men, especially most black men, you get to a certain age and then it's like, oh shoot, I'm 30 or 34 or 35, and either I got kids or don't got kids, or my career, and you're looking at what have I accumulated and where do I have to go, and what skills and what things do I need to possess to get to that goal, and oh snap, what did I screw up on the way by having the wrong information that I used to use as my guiding principles to get to certain places. I think we don't necessarily have the right blueprints to start off on the right self-development. I think it's more correcting bad mistakes and bad learned habits, and then trying to redirect our paths to that destination.
Yeah, because time flies. You don't realize how often you really have to self-evaluate and reevaluate what you've been doing, and trying to align that with, all right, have I been charting this path long enough to where I'm seeing some return, right? Because you look up 5 years, 10 years, 15, 20 years, it passes, and part of self-development and self-improvement is doing a self-check-in, trying to figure out what is it that you need to get better at. And you can't do that alone either.
No.
You have to share what your goals are with other people that can help hold yourself accountable.
Yeah.
You need accountability partners to say that, hey, listen, this is what I'm trying to work on. This is what I'm trying to achieve. I just need you to check in with me like every Thursday just to make sure that I've kind of done what I needed to do. You know, sometimes it's just simple as that. You don't need them to do a heavy lift, but same thing with working out. Obviously, it's easier to do what you're doing with a workout buddy than to get up and go to the gym, because it's going to be times when you don't feel like doing it.
Or you don't go hard at the gym.
Right.
You just, I made it, I'm here.
Yeah.
You don't give your best workout.
Yeah. You know?
So what are some of the things that you do to check in and to build your self-help, self-development strategies?
Oh, man, I've had to learn how to ask questions, and going back to the networking conversation, really learning how to build relationships, and sometimes, and again, this goes back to spending time with people. You just have to practice having conversations with people that you cannot necessarily see an immediate return from, or return from at all. Just practice being a good person, because those things tend to spider. Like you just being a good person and just being genuine, open, vulnerable about things that you're concerned about, things that you've learned, just sharing the world. A big thing too, which is very sensitive, because oftentimes it deals with money, is investing in yourself. Always making sure that you're looking for opportunities to invest in yourself, and sometimes that takes money most of the time, because different workshops,
Books, programs,
anything.
Training.
That stuff takes money. Like continuing education is just a thing of life. It has to be part of your life.
Everyday life.
Just continuing to learn and to be around other people that are interested in learning things, and getting comfortable being in rooms where you don't know, or it's perceived that you don't know as much as everybody else that's in the room, and just being comfortable with that. Like almost taking pride in not knowing, but knowing that I'm here because I want to learn, and then and then creating the mindset that not only am I here to learn, so is everybody else. Like that's where I think I didn't have that mindset as when I was younger. Was that I forgot that everybody else is in class because they're trying to learn the same thing I'm trying to learn. Like if y'all knew this stuff, y'all wouldn't be here.
Correct. You'd be doing it.
Right? So it's just reminding yourself that anytime you put yourself in a position to learn around other people, use that as a community and a stepping stone to just launch yourself from, because that's what it's there for. You will spend time with people either in a workshop or a class or whatever it is, building something for that period of time, and then that becomes a whole different network that you can utilize. You can build relationships off of. That's a big one that I've learned, and sometimes, again, like I said, that takes money. It costs money, and it's easy to say like it costs money, and not because you want to see what the immediate return is going to be, right? And that's the hustle with school. It's like, all right, you go to school, you get a degree, you're supposed to get a job. Like that's supposed to be the return.
The immediate return on your investment at school.
Right, but the investment should be in yourself. You should be going
to learn and network.
To learn, to achieve whatever it is that you want to achieve, and understand that building a network is going to help you achieve that. That school is actually there to build a community of people that's going to help you achieve your goal.
Correct.
The classes that you attend is just supposed to lay the foundation for the things that you're going to need in order to execute that.
To go outside of the world, outside of the school.
Exactly.
Yeah.
To put it into motion.
Yeah.
But the people around you, that environment, that ecosystem is what you're going to have to pull on in order to get, hey, pass out my flyer, Jim, pass out my flyer, Bill, Dave, Dre.
Or you're using your professionals to get you into internships and stuff like
straight
that.
up. Or the dude that's in digital design.
Yeah.
Yo, print me up a poster real quick. I know you nice with this. Like, all right, cool, boom, boom, boom. Because that's, again, now you're building a network to help you save money in order to make money.
And you're also businesses.
But that's the investment.
Yeah.
Like that's why you have to see it as an investment in yourself. But you got to be very intentional about how you plan on utilizing that.
Okay.
Yeah. You know, this was a good one. I enjoyed it, man. Talking to Tracy.
Yeah.
You know, man.
You know what I meant to say?
What's that?
People, in regards to self-development, be able to ask for help.
Yeah.
Be okay with being vulnerable, asking for help. It's okay. Because you don't know everything.
That's true.
And
there will never be a time when you know everything.
But there's a pride thing, I think. I know I had to break that.
Yeah.
I figured it out on my own. When it's just, go ask for help. Be okay with going to somebody and say, hey, I don't know this. Yeah. Do you mind teaching me?
You know what also is crazy? You know what that forces other people to do? Because the other thing is that I'm assuming you're going to people who know what your the answer to the question that you're asking.
Mm-hmm.
The challenge is when you're going to someone who you think knows.
Yeah.
But they don't know.
Yeah.
But do they have enough confidence in themselves to tell you that they don't know, or are they just gonna kind of just try to talk themselves into believing that they know something, and then trying to convince you that they know what they're talking about. You know.
But I definitely think being able to ask for help and not being prideful of not knowing everything, like you said, makes a big difference in your self-development. Because that was something that I struggled with for a while. Because like you said, you feel like you don't know everything, and that takes away a certain level of confidence from you. And you said you go into certain rooms, everybody's there to learn, or just understanding that you're not gonna get it right the first time. Yeah. So just do it. Yeah. Because it's not gonna be the first time that makes it the best time for you. Maybe the 10th or the 15th or the 50th time that you did a thing, and that's when it clicks. Yeah. So I think those would be my big two things that I'd want to add into what you were saying as far as self-development, because it's huge.
Yeah, take pride in it. Like the pride should be in the ignorance, but the
willingness to learn.
Yeah, like that's where the pride should be in. The pride is in knowing that knowing what you don't know. Yeah. And then seeking that information out. Yeah. And going to get it.
And making it happen.
Yeah. To me, that's where the pride should be.
That's dope too.
You know?
Hey, you brought it home. All right, man. Look, all right. I think people learned a lot about you today.
Did they? Oh, man. Okay. Cool. You see how nervous I am about that? Did you feel nervous in my voice? I'm like, oh, they learned a lot about me. What did they learn? You know? But like I said, like work in progress, man. That's just been me. But yeah, this was a good one. Cool one. So thank you everybody for listening. You know, we want to hear your thoughts.
You can communicate with us now, your thoughts. We have something new that we're trying out. That will allow everybody to be in on the conversation, or if you want to give us topics or things that you want to hear us discuss that maybe we haven't touched on, you can text us at 213-784-2633. Once again, that's 213-784-2633. That's directly to me and E. We'll be able to respond directly back to you and just, give us your thoughts, give us what you want to hear us talk about, or just your perception on what we talked about today.
Yeah. What should we ask the people? What should be the first question that we want to hear, or response that we want to hear from folks?
Ooh. I want to know what everybody's time management is. How do they manage their time?
So all right, so yeah, so
How do they do their juggling? What do they feel like you said? Would you rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10 with managing your world?
Yeah.
You know.
Cool. So text us where you rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10 with your time management skills, what you would like to do better, and also one thing you would tell your younger self.
Mm-hmm.
What advice would you give your younger self? Your younger self that was willing to listen, of course. Don't give us your younger self at 8 years old. Give us your younger self that was in the world.
Come on.
You know?
Yeah. Text us at 213-784-2633. 213-784-2633.
Cool.
All right, man. Another one down.
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 Peace.
All right, y'all.